Steve, I have interviewed you in the past about performance, and we're going to talk more about performance, but specifically how that connects with design. What is the major sort of hang up there?
Well, a lot of times what we have are developers and designers working in silos separately. It's kind of like what we used to have with developers and operations. And of course, DevOps brought that together, something we saw at Velocity. And a couple of years ago, I started talking about the same dynamic happening between designers and developers, where designers would build a mock-up, a design in isolation, and developers would work on that in isolation, and instead, just like DevOps, lowering the wall, promoting more communication between those groups. Design plus performance is about lowering that wall and having more communication and skill sharing between designers and developers. And what we end up with DevOps is a more robust, scalable website, a healthier website, and what we end up with design plus performance is a more enjoyable website with greater user experience.
Isolate one specific case, if you don't mind, so I can sort of wrap my head around this. Give me one example of how sort of breaking down this barrier between design and development works.
Right, and so you might have a designer coming up with a mock-up in isolation, and then it's turned over to developers. And so they're playing this pixel game where they're trying to get everything to lay out exactly as the mock-up dictates. But then we have responsive web design, and all of a sudden we're looking at different viewport sizes, different screen sizes, and it's not the old days where we have 3 different screen sizes. Today we have 63 different screen sizes, and a designer cannot do a mock-up that's pixel perfect across 63 different screen sizes. So instead what we need is to start working with prototypes very early with designers, where designers are creating assets that are part of that design, imagery and logos and things like that, but it's part of a fluid prototype so that from day one we can start seeing what that design looks like on different screen sizes and adapt the design accordingly.
Is there something that the designer can communicate of like where they can and can't flex? Like, here's a design, but feel free to flex here and don't flex there?
Yeah, well that would come through in, if you looked at it in different viewports. So one of the things that SpeedCurve does is it gives you this responsive dashboard. It will take your website and it will run it through a number of different viewport sizes and let you see what it looks like. And so what you would want to capture in the implementation of that design, in the development of that design, is you would make sure that those components that had to be a fixed size according to the desired design were kept that way across different viewport sizes. And there's ways to do that with CSS, and if that wasn't implemented, it would show up if you looked at it across this responsive dashboard. Hopefully what you would see is the layout change responsively, but those assets that needed to preserve a certain look and feel would remain that way.
Excellent. Steve, thanks so much for your time.
Hey, it was great seeing you again.